So GIS is what we're here to talk about today. GIS and how it's used specifically in anthropology. So let's start off to get this whole show going. GIS, what is it? It's Geographic Information Systems. It's a way to create maps, essentially, from existing information, a way to structure and create spatial databases for people to look at. And it's used in a variety of different ways. And to start us off with, Francisco over here is going to talk about how GIS is used in health and wellness in anthropology.
GIS mapping. It allows health and wellness research to be gathered and to be used in a number of different ways. Yeah. It includes maps and pictures and charts, and it all helps with general health and wellness research. GIS mapping, we're able to track information about diseases such as mental health, suicide, depression, tobacco-related deaths, birth rates, life expectancy, AIDS, cancer, obesity. With GIS mapping, we can even track health insurance coverage. So we can see who's getting help and who's not getting help. Cool. With the research out there, we can also allow to differentiate between local and regional outbreaks. We can also see the links between age, education, and race. And we can identify measures of both mental and physical health. Why it's important for me and you, and why we can actually benefit from it. Say there's a flu, and we need to find out if the outbreak is, local, or if it's big enough for the authorities to put some kind of warning for all of us to figure out if we need to find AIDS, or we need to find how to get our shots as fast as possible because the epidemic might be growing or it might be contained. GIS mapping becomes an essential to track trends that pertain to improving health and wellness strategies.
Now, wouldn't this have applications in archaeology?
Yeah, actually, archaeology is used in GIS a lot. Obvious applications for some specific examples of what it's used in. There is one case in Tunisia where there were some archaeologists looking at an ancient Roman city, and the thing was, the city was abandoned right after the fall of the Roman Empire in about the 5th century CE, towards the end, and then later was occupied by Tunisian natives who rebuilt and reused the buildings that the Romans had built previously, and then built their own new ones.
So like a layer on top of another layer?
Exactly. And so what they did with GIS was to map all these buildings into a GIS software program called ArcGIS. And then they used a system to reconstruct a 3D map where they were able to, using that map, tell which buildings have been built by the Romans and which have been built by the medieval Tunisian population. Which is a really cool example, an application of it. There's another application closer here to home in America. It concerns itself with Mexico and the pre-conquest Aztec Empire. And so what this gentleman did was he went through the historical database, historical records of all Aztec names, and then applied them compared them all to the current Mexican names, so the new place names compared to their old place names. And then he used a GIS to map those old place names to the new place names, so you could see compare how Aztec geopolitical empire looks best with the current Mexican government. And that enabled them to kind of see how the Aztecs existed before a conquest and how the distribution of power was laid out. And it's another very cool application. But there's so many different ways that GIS can be applied. I mean, I'm sure you know plenty yourself.
You're pretty good with social mapping. What are the applications for GIS?
Well, actually, there are quite a few applications. Now, when you talk about social stuff, we tend to think about how people perceive and how people imagine and how people understand certain things. But, for example, look at this neighborhood. It's not exactly the best in the world, and it's very hard for us to describe why we think it's a little shady. Now, let's go ahead and shove in GPS or GIS into this. Now, let's say that you were to plot out a specific run through the city. And let's say you get 50 or so people of different backgrounds kind of walk through and give them a little device, like let's say a GPS-enabled smartphone to get location data. And when they walk through, tell them, okay, if you feel dangerous or you feel safe, go ahead and punch a button that tells me more dangerous or less dangerous. Yeah. And if you do that 50 times over, you'll generate, let's say, a grayscale image of what people consider safe or not safe. And it has advantages over other ways of trying to figure out if something's dangerous or not. Now, if you go for crime statistics, a lot of times crimes aren't reported, and they are official, so sometimes it's not directly connected to the material environment.
Yeah.
But if you take GIS, for example, and you look at this grayscale device, and then you pair it with, let's say, a recording device. So when they press the button and say, that house is a little scary, I don't feel very safe.
Yeah.
Or this street is like dangerous to cross.
Yeah.
Or this area seems really nice. You can combine that qualitative data with actual material world data.
Okay, yeah, that's very cool, yeah.
Yeah, you get a better understanding of what's going on.
And you can map the two on the same little image so that they're both readily available.
Exactly.
Exactly. Awesome, okay.
Alright, so we've covered some various ways in GIS has been used here, from social mapping to archaeology to health and wellness. And we want to leave you guys with the impression that these aren't the only arenas that GIS can be used in. There's tons and tons of applications in anthropology and beyond. For instance, the geopolitical mapping of the Aztec Empire made use of historical data and could provide a huge insight into where history can expand. So there's an interdisciplinary aspect, and there's so much application for GIS. It is a brand new technology, and we're learning more and more about it every day. And I encourage everyone who sees this video and everyone who's used GIS to try and come up with more inventive ways to use it, more inventive ways, more clever ways for us to learn about the human species. Thank you.